Hi, my name is Ravi. Welcome to my channel, Payment Talks. Did you know 85% of the people watching the videos on this channel do not visit the blog, where you can find more information on the given topic? The link to the blog is in the description. I suggest watching the video and referring to the blog for more clarity. This week, we try to understand the concept of charges and the charge codes in the SWIFT cross-border payment that uses correspondent banking. Charge codes define how payment-related fees are distributed between the sender and the beneficiary. Three commonly used charge codes in legacy SWIFT payments are OUR, OUR, BEN, BEN, SHA, SHA. The ISO equivalents of these codes are DET, DEBT, CRED, CRED, and SHAR, SHAR. In this video, we will explore what these codes mean, how they impact the payment amount, and how they are represented in SWIFT messages, both in MT and CBPR with practical examples. The first charge code is OUR or debt. This charge code means any charges that are incurred to process this payment are borne by the sender. The charges include the sender, intermediary, and beneficiary bank charges. In this mode, the beneficiary receives the full payment amount that is mentioned in the instruction. The second charge code is BEN or CRED. This charge code means any charges that are incurred to process this payment are borne by the beneficiary. The charges include the sender, intermediary, and beneficiary bank charges. In this mode, the charges are taken from the instructed amount and the beneficiary receives the amount after the charge deductions. The charge code is SHA or SHAR. This charge code means the charges are shared between the sender and the beneficiary. The sender pays the charges of their bank, while the beneficiary pays the charges of intermediary and beneficiary banks. In this mode, the beneficiary charges are taken from the instructed amount, while the sender charges are deducted separately by the sender bank from the sender's account based on the agreement between them. Let us now compare and understand the nuances of these charge codes in legacy MT and new ISO CBPR messages. Also, we will understand how these charges and codes are represented in the payment messages. Firstly, the charge codes in MT are OUR, BEN, SHA. These are represented in the field tag 71A in MT, and the charge codes in MX are DET, CRED, SHAR. These are represented in the XML tag charge bearer. The charges are represented in the tags 71F and 71G in MT message. 71F refers to the sender's charges, whereas 71G refers to the receiver charges. There are some network validations that are applied on 71F and 71G. 71G is allowed only for the charge code OUR. It is not allowed for BEN and SHA, and rightly so. When it is BEN or SHA, the beneficiary bank would deduct charges from the payment amount, and there is no point in mentioning charges in the payment message. But in our mode, since the sender is supposed to pay the charge amount, the sender bank, based on pre-agreements or based on estimate, can mention the receiver bank charge. In this case, 71G is mentioned with the amount to be deducted, and the interbank settlement amount is topped up with over the instructed amount. If you want to understand more about the 71G and its use case, please do comment so that I can cover in the next videos. 71F is not allowed when the charge code is OUR, and it is optional when the charge code is SHA. But 71F is mandatory when the charge code is BEN, and rightly so. As the charges are taken from the payment amount, sender bank is obligated to inform the amount of charges that are taken for transparency purposes. In ISO, the charges are mentioned in structured XML hierarchical format in the XML tag charges information. Whenever the amount is deducted from the payment proceeds, it is mandatory for the agent processing the payment to mention the charge amount and its BIC information for transparency purposes. Charge breakdown is less structured in MT, and it is more structured and detailed in the ISO message. In MT, we only have 71F and 71G, which mentions the sender bank and receiver bank charges. But for a complex payment chain, there is no mention of the intermediary bank charges in the MT messages. As mentioned in ISO message, every bank that deducts the charge from the payment has to mention the information in the payment message in charges information field along with the agent BIC information. As these intermediary bank charges are transparent in the ISO message, the settlement amount calculation is explicit. In MT, the calculation is implicit and unclear. Let us now look at the example to understand the charges and their calculations in detail for all the charge codes separately. We will take a single scenario where a person, debtor, initiates a payment with an instructed amount of 1000 USD to be sent to another person, creditor. The debtor agent is Bank A and the creditor agent is Bank D. Bank B and Bank C are intermediary banks. Bank A, which is the sender bank, has charges of 20 USD. Bank B, which is intermediary bank 1, has charges of 15 USD. Bank C, which is intermediary bank 2, has charges of 10 USD. Bank D, which is beneficiary bank, has charges of 5 USD. There are 4 banks in payment chain, and let us look at processing of each charge code at each bank separately. First, our debt charge code. Sender pays all charges. Sender initiated a payment with 1000 USD and agreed to pay all charges so that the receiver receives the full 1000 USD. Bank A first debits the 1000 USD of instructed amount and then calculates sum of all the charges, which in the scenario is 50 USD, debits this amount from sender account separately. So the total debit from sender account is 1050 USD. Please note that we will not cover the prepayment charges and the mention of this amount in 71G in this video. Please do comment if you want me to cover the various cases of prepayment charges and its processing. Bank A sends the payment with interbank settlement amount equal to instructed amount as 1000 USD. No charge amount will be mentioned in either the MT or MX message by Bank A. Sender bank usually do not mention the sender bank charges that it takes from the sender in the payment message. This is usually the amount agreed between its customer and need not be informed to anyone, except in the case where sender takes the charges from the proceeds in charge code BEN. Bank B receives the payment instruction from Bank A and processes further to Bank C as per the instruction. As the charge code is R, Bank B looks at the instructed and interbank settlement amount. As they both are same, Bank B does not deduct the amount from the interbank settlement amount. Instead, it will raise a charge claim to sender Bank A. Bank B processes the payment to Bank C with the same interbank settlement amount of 1000 USD. It does not mention any charges information in the payment. Bank C receives the payment instruction from Bank B and processes further to Bank D as per the instruction. As the charge code is R, Bank C looks for instructed and interbank settlement amount. As they both are same, Bank C does not deduct the amount from the interbank settlement amount. Instead, it will raise the charge claim to sender Bank A via the Bank B. In prepayment scenarios, Bank B can settle the claim of Bank C. Bank C processes the payment to Bank D with the same interbank settlement amount of 1000 USD. It does not mention any charges information in the payment. As Bank B and Bank C, Bank D cannot take the charges from the payment. It will raise the charge claim to sender Bank A via Bank B and Bank C. Bank D, having received the funds from Bank C, will now credit the beneficiary the interbank settlement amount of 1000 USD, which is also the instructed amount with charge code hour. The customer will receive the full 1000 USD and the sender will pay all the charges. Next, we look at the same scenario when the charge code is BEN or CRED. Beneficiary pays all charges. The sender initiates a payment of 1000 USD as instructed amount. Since the charge code is BEN, the sender does not bear the charge. So only 1000 USD is deducted from the sender account. Coming to sender bank's charge of 20 USD, while processing the payment, sender bank will deduct this amount from the interbank settlement amount or payment proceeds. It will then recalculate the interbank settlement amount to be 1000 USD minus 20 USD, which is equal to 980 USD, that need to be sent to bank B. Since these charges are deducted from the proceeds, the charges need to be reflected in the payment message. In MT, 71A will be Ben and 71F, which is sender charges, will be 20 USD. Please note that one occurrence of 71F is mandatory for Ben code. In MX, the same information is reflected in structured manner. Charge bearer will be cred. The charges information tag reflects that 20 USD is deducted by the agent A from the payment proceeds. Bank B receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD, interbank settlement as 980 USD, and charge code as Ben or cred. Bank B also deducts its charges from the payment proceeds. It will then calculate the new interbank settlement as 965 USD, which is 980 USD minus 15 USD, which is Bank B charges. In MT, 71F is optional repeatable section. Bank B can add their charges in 71F and can send this message to Bank C. While this is best practice, there are two issues here. Firstly, 71F refers to sender bank's charges but not the intermediary sender bank. Second, as 71F does not have the bank information, it is difficult to understand who deducted these charges. So usually intermediary banks would not mention their charges in the empty message. They simply forward the original payment details with the sender bank's charges as is. Also, as we know, at least one occurrence of 71F is mandatory for the payment to be validated by the network. In MX, we have agent information details in the message. Any bank that deducts the charges from the payment proceeds should mention the charges and their information while sending the payment message forward. Hence, the bank B mentions the charges information in the MX message, but not in the empty message. Bank A charges are carried forward in the message for transparency. Bank C receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD, interbank settlement amount as 965 USD, and charge code as BEN. Bank C deducts its charges from the payment proceeds. It will then calculate the new interbank settlement as 955 USD, which is 965 USD minus 10 USD, which is Bank C charges. Similar to Bank B, Bank C also does not mention its charges in the empty message but mentions the charges details along with its information in MX message. Bank A and Bank C charges are carried forward in the message. Bank D receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD and interbank settlement amount as 955 USD with charge code as Ben Cred. Bank D, after deducting its charges of 5 USD, credits the beneficiary with 950 USD. That is 955 USD minus 5 USD charges of Bank D. Customer will receive 950 USD and the receiver pays all the charges from the proceeds that it was supposed to receive. Next, we look at the same scenario when the charge code is SHA. Charges are shared between the sender and beneficiary. The sender initiates a payment of 1000 USD as instructed amount. Since the charge code is SHA, the sender shares the charges with beneficiary. The sender bank charges would be borne by the sender only. Sender bank will deduct the sender's account to the tune of 1020 USD, which is 1000 USD of instructed amount and 20 USD of sender bank charge. These charges are usually deducted separately and are not mentioned in the payment. Since sender bank does not deduct from the proceeds, the interbank settlement amount would be equal to instructed amount when Bank A proceeds the payment to Bank B. In both MT and MX message, only the charge code is mentioned. Bank B receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD, interbank settlement amount as 1000 USD, and charge code as SHA. The processing of charges by the intermediary banks in SHA scenario is similar to charge code BEN. The intermediary banks and beneficiary bank would take their charges from the proceeds only. Bank B deducts its charges from the payment proceeds. It will then calculate the new interbank settlement as 985 USD, which is 1000 USD minus 15 USD, which is Bank B charges. As explained before, the intermediary charges are not mentioned in the empty message. But in the MX message, Bank B needs to mention the charges deducted along with its details. Bank C receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD, interbank settlement amount as 985 USD, and charge code as SHA. Bank C deducts its charges from the payment proceeds. It will then calculate the new interbank settlement as 975 USD, which is 985 USD minus 10 USD, which is Bank C charges. As explained before, intermediary charges are not mentioned in the empty message. But in the next message, Bank C needs to mention the charges deducted along with its details. Bank D receives the payment with instructed amount as 1000 USD and interbank settlement amount as 975 USD with the charge code as SHA. Bank D, after deducting its charge of 5 USD, credits the beneficiary with 970 USD. That is 975 USD minus 5 USD charges of Bank D. The customer will receive 970 USD and the charges are shared between the sender and receiver. Here is a comparison summary of the processing between the three charge codes. The difference in the total amount paid by sender and the amount received by the beneficiary is always equal to the 50 USD, which is the cumulative charges of the banks that process the payment. The difference here would be who bears these charges. In our, the sender bears completely, and in BEN, the beneficiary bears completely. In SHA, the sender bears only sender bank's charges, and the rest of the intermediary and receiver bank charges are borne by the beneficiary. Some practical observations to mention which charge code is usually used. Our is used when sender wants to send the exact amount to the beneficiary. BEN is used in informal transfers where sender does not want to cover the charges. SHA is a balanced approach. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please like, subscribe and share for more such interesting topics on payments.